Hi everybody. I'm just doing a couple of screencasts just so that we've got a few resources that you can use if you need to go back and look at again, just in regards to the content that is in Chapter 5 on the science of food. So I'm going to break it down into each key natural food component here, and I'll do a short video on each one. And I'll explain what the natural food component is, some food examples, what is the reaction that is occurring in terms of chemical and or physical properties that are changing during processing of that food, and then I'll describe the process that is happening, and I'll try and do that with some diagrams so that you can actually visualize what's going on. But the first thing I wanted to do was just sort of explain the term functional properties, okay, because I think a lot of people are having a bit of trouble with that. So it's really important here that we get our terminology right. So when we talk about functional properties, we're really talking about what is the natural food component in the ingredients. So we've got ingredients. So when you look at a recipe, it has a list of ingredients. Now, the ingredients really are the food examples. So that's things like the flour in the recipe, or the butter in the recipe, or the eggs in the recipe. Okay, and they're our food examples here. The natural food component is what is in the flour or the butter or the eggs that is actually causing the change, okay? And so we call these our natural food components. You might sometimes hear them referred to as functional properties, okay? So if you see the word functional properties, what we're really referring to is this, the natural food components, okay? There. Now, they are things like protein, carbohydrate, but be careful with carbohydrate because you need to separate those into sugars and starches because they both have quite different chemical properties. It also includes fats. It also includes acids and enzymes. Okay, now I'm going to show you these one by one, but really the functional properties or natural food components are the things that change, so the physical and chemical properties of food that change and react during preparation and processing. So it doesn't just have to be with the application of heat. It can also be with manually beating or agitating a product, such as when we beat eggs. And it's essential to producing a successful product. And it's really important that you understand what's happening with these things here and how they affect the end product. Okay? So coming back to this sheet, we now know that the natural food component is the active ingredient, the active component within the ingredients that actually chemically and physically change that product. Then we've got the example of the ingredient here. And then in this third column is what is the reaction that is happening. Okay? Now, in your textbook on page 67, there's a really good table of all the processes that happen. So you need to know what process goes with which natural food component and what are the conditions that need to happen for that process to happen. So you would write about that here. So for example, with starch, there's two processes that happen. There's dextrinization and there's gelatinization, but they require different conditions. And I'll go through that in a little bit more detail when we talk about starches. So if you have this sheet filled out properly with all your natural food components and your descriptions, you've got a nice summary of all what's happening in Chapter 5.